and welcome back to another episode of The Book Stop. I'm your host Jen, and I'm very excited to talk about today's episode. But before we begin, there will be spoilers as we talk about major events that unfold within the story. In addition, each episode will have a list of trigger warnings in the description. Be sure to follow the podcast on Instagram at The Book Stop Podcast, and show your support on Patreon for early access to episodes and other additional content. And welcome back to another episode of The Book Stop. Today we have one of the craziest mermaids I know.
I'm a
Just kidding. She's a boring human.
As far as you know.
Who do we got here today?
Hello. My name is Kim. It's 3 letters. It's spelled K-I-M. It's pretty chill. It's pretty easy. You may know me from works such as several other episodes on this podcast with Jen, my own podcast, Movie Theater Butter, that I'm really bad at keeping up with consistently. Or you may not know me at all. And if you don't, hi, nice to meet you.
All right. Yeah, if you guys want to check out Kim's podcast, I will link it in the description below. What book did you bring for us to talk about today, and why did you bring it?
Okay, so I brought a little book called Wish Out of Water by Holly Trent. I brought it because the story sounded like it was going to be fun cringe, like intentionally fun cringe, in like a cute kind of way. I guess I was looking for the vibes of Twilight.
Okay, yeah, I could definitely see that.
Like when I first read Twilight and was like, oh, this is like kind of cringy, but also I love it, you know, because it's silly and fun. Those were the vibes when I was reading the summary about this, and I was like, this will be very fun. This will be like a niche little book that most people probably haven't read that we can bring to the forefront and be like, wow, guys, it's cute. Check it out. So that's why I brought it.
It's one of those books that you see at like a Walmart or like a Dollar Tree. It looks like it's gonna be like a raunchy, like kind of trashy little book, which we love those every once in a while. Mm-hmm. And it was not what I expected, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna talk about it here in a second, but before we do, we're gonna play a little game.
Ooh.
So you are gonna summarize this book in 30 seconds. And just try your best.
Oh gosh, I'm not prepared. I definitely didn't write myself notes.
You're a little cheater. Try your best, and you may begin whenever you're ready.
After a Twilight runaway car-esque rescue, secret mermaids Brooke and Cooper fall in love, I guess. Cooper is like heir to the throne, whatever, he's royal, but we don't really get like a full explanation of where the fuck he is royal and why that, I don't know, whatever. But we find out later that, plot twist, Brooke is actually inheriting the throne and Cooper's just kind of there. And so like also it's like we never really get an explanation of, is this somehow kind of slightly incest in the Secret Mermaid royal world? Anyways, they fall in love and I don't know what the fuck happens after that. I really don't.
Yeah. I love that totally wasn't scripted at all, and that was very natural. Like it just came out of you. Like, just straight memory.
Well, definitely the first sentence was a little scripted.
Okay, I'm going to summarize it for anybody who hasn't heard of this book. I'm guessing there's probably a lot. Brooke Williams was raised to avoid drawing attention at all costs. At 28, she wonders if her mermaid mother's paranoia isolated Brooks and her siblings from society to a harmful extreme. When Brooke intervenes to save a stranger from a careening truck, she quickly learns her mother's obsessive concerns were entirely justified. There's something about Brooke that Cooper can't get off his mind. At first, he thinks his infatuation is due to the concussion sustained when she shoved him out of traffic. Then he realizes that she's just simply perfect. Perfect to free him from the looming future of being king of Sonderland? Saucerland? I don't know. Let's call it Saucerland.
He's an alien mermaid.
His rush proposal comes with a few strings attached. Brooke marries him. He's tossed from the line of succession. She gets a wad of cash for her struggling swim schools, and then they go separate ways. Of course, Cooper soon realizes that he's foolish to let her go.
Yeah, that's about it.
Wow. I will say that I was intrigued halfway through, and then once we got to chapter 21, I fell off again.
What happened in chapter 21, Jen?
Oh, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it. But before we start talking about it, let's do our favorite quotes.
Where do I begin? I'm just gonna... Do you want to begin?
Okay, so this one was the beginning of the book when we were still finding out who Cooper was. We didn't really understand that he was a heir to the throne, all this stuff. It was like just describing who he was. And this line that I saw and I was like, hold on, is this book about to be different than I thought? It says, for 10 years following Cooper's discovery, in quotation marks, reporters from royal news outlets would wait outside nightclubs and bars trying to get a glimpse of who he was spending his time with. And here I'm thinking, is Cooper secretly gay?
Oh my god, that would have been so much better.
Right? They had like quotations around his discovery, and I'm sitting here like, again, we don't know anything about him, so I'm like, is he gay? And Brooke is like a beard situation. We're getting a glimpse of who he spends his time with. It was setting up for a romantic relationship with a man, and I was like, okay, I can get behind that. And then they introduced Brooke and the reason why they get married, and I'm like, okay, never mind.
That would have been a very interesting storyline to pursue, that he is gay or even bisexual, and kind of going through like he falls in love, but he's still also kind of dealing with an identity that he hasn't fully accepted or kind of told the world.
What quote did you bring?
Okay. One of the first quotes that I brought, it's very early on. It's like page 7. And all of my quotes kind of reflect the interesting way that this author writes imagery.
Mm-hmm.
And specifically about people and introducing characters. So my first quote is, "It was a voice that a lover would close their eyes to and lean towards. It was both sunshine and a promise of unforgiving rapture." And I think this quote could be really good if it was sandwiched by actual imagery describing the actual voice.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, like it's a little rusty, like it's a little hot, or you know, whatever the fuck it was.
Yeah.
But this is pretty much the only description of the voice we get. Basically, a very vague, like, wow, it was a good voice.
Yeah, I could see what she was going towards. Maybe he's seductive and stuff like that. But it just didn't follow through.
Yeah, because I was like, okay, well, what makes it such a good voice? And it being both sunshine and the promise of an unforgiving rapture is like, I don't get that. I can't comprehend what that could possibly sound like.
My other quote is, just reread it. Okay, it's really stupid, but when I read it, I went, oh, a little foreshadowing, and then I went, literally same. And the quote is, oh, lost the plot for a moment.
Yes, I remember that so clearly because I was like, oh my god, me too.
I just highlighted it and left a note just saying same because what is the plot of this book?
that was me like every 3 pages. You don't even know.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Yeah, so my next one is, the man was built like a fire hydrant. Short and wet? ? No, immovable. I'm like, to me, a man built like a fire hydrant is like 5'4", sunburn all over.
Just red as a lobster, yeah. God.
Yeah.
It's bad. It's just bad.
It's bad.
My last one is, so this is like generally a good quote that I liked a lot. So this comes from Brooke's mother, who passed away, and you got to see Brooke's mother through not necessarily flashbacks, but reoccurring thoughts that she would have about conversations with her mother. And her mother said, again, they are mermaids, which we'll talk plenty of, and she says, they'll look at you like you don't belong. They can't make sense of you. You're too special. You don't look like you're meant for this place, but you have the right to breathe the air here just like them.
That is a good quote.
It's honestly very powerful for what Brooke has to go through, and her siblings as well. And I think it kind of summarized her mother's feelings on being a mermaid and living in the human world.
That's good. That definitely also brings up another topic of the potential that this book had that we can get to later. But I think that definitely brings up, like, yeah, we could get into a lot more of, like, her struggling with her identity and how that impacts her day-to-day a little bit more than we actually did get. Which was kind of just, I think that quote that you brought up was really good. That's probably one of the best bits of writing that this book has on the topic. Mm-hmm. And the rest of it is kind of just like, she feels uncomfortable because she's a mermaid.
Yeah.
Okay, so my final quote, out of context, is actually very fun and interesting. In context, it's just not great.
Okay.
So the quote goes, it's another one about the voice. That voice, though, he'd never forget that. Damn. The very thought of it sent a wicked chill from his wobbly brain straight down to his crotch. It was a voice that'd make him shamelessly whisper, "Ride me, woman," if he ever heard one. So yeah. So that one, like I said, I think out of context, that could fit very well into what I thought this book was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of intentionally a little bit funny with it.
Yeah.
But I think that the book is actually taking that seriously.
Yeah. The whole like raunchy scenes, like the spicy scenes are just not good.
They're not, and I really wanted them to be.
Like the writing is just, it's not great. And I'm so sorry, Holly. I'm sure you tried really hard, but we're gonna butcher this book. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Everybody makes mistakes.
Before we do that, what are some things that you liked about this book?
Okay. This is going to be a like that also goes hand in hand with a dislike. But
okay.
I liked that Brooke, our main female character, was an adult.
True.
Which, like, for this type of novel, it kind of seems like she was going to be like, a woman of 18.
Yeah.
She's so young and fragile and tee-hee-hee. But she's 28, so she's an adult. Great. Thank you for that bare minimum. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm really glad they made her older. And her siblings are all, like, older, too. Which falls into something else we'll talk about later with her siblings.
Is it the fact that they all call their dad Daddy?
Oh, okay, no, but that is also very interesting.
Yeah.
To be, like, devil's advocate, I think it's, like, also how they're raised and where they're raised. I want to say South Carolina or North Carolina. And usually when you're in the South, calling your mom and dad other things than mom and dad is pretty common. But the daddy was kind of a lot. Yeah. I just kind of, like, glazed over it. And I was like, okay, we're done.
Every time I saw that word, I was like, ugh. I, like, kind of, like, a uncomfy little shiver.
Anything else you liked?
Okay, I kind of liked how the Williams family all had stupidly obvious water-based names. I actually really did like that, because I thought that fed into, again, what I wanted out of this book, which was, like, a silliness. So, of course, our main character's name is Brooke, and she has siblings with the names, like, River, Lake, Bay, and they're all just, like, so overtly, obviously, like, body of water kind of names. And that I genuinely did like, because, again, I thought that was, like, fun and silly. And I was like, yes, I'm here for it. They're mermaids named Water. 10 out of 10.
Yeah, it was very funny. When I read it, I just closed my eyes and shook my head and then kept going. Because I guess it makes sense, but also it's kind of just like on the nose about it.
Oh, yeah.
Very, very obvious.
Which, again, like, I think if the rest of the book would have met that level of cheesiness, it would have been more fun. But it just was taking itself too seriously when it really shouldn't have.
I agree with that, yes.
Do you have anything that you liked about this?
Wasn't a lot, but I did like that the mother was still intertwined with the story. Even though she has passed, she is still, I would say, a pretty important character in Brooke's life. I really liked the callbacks to her and the reoccurring, like, I guess, words of advice that Brooke was having. So I really enjoyed that. I wonder what her mom's name was. Like, Tide? Shore?
Tide Pod. Fish. Her mom's name was just Fish.
Fish. Bubbles? I don't know. A little detail about the mermaids themselves, which we're going to talk about in a second. Some things that I liked was, I liked that the tails were skin toned colored. They weren't like pink and blue, but they were like actual natural skin tones. I think that was a kind of a cool little detail.
Yeah. That definitely is something that, like, makes a lot of sense when you think about, like, mermaid lore.
Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense, and it feels more natural, for sure.
I also really liked that they have powers and that they didn't need to be in the water to use their powers, but I just wish they were in it more. Like, there wasn't enough mention of it, and, like, half the time she would talk her freezing abilities, and I'm like, who is she? Is she Elsa? Why is she doing this? Because I would forget she had powers.
Yeah, because it wasn't really relevant.
I think it's just a thing, like, when you go to play mermaids, and they're like, oh, what's your tail color and what's your power? That's what it felt like.
Yeah, like the author just threw it in there to be like, oh yeah, I gotta do that.
Here's a fun little question. But what are some things that you disliked about this book?
Ooh, here we go. The whole book. No, maybe not the whole book. Maybe like 92% of the book. Where to begin? So I already mentioned how I cringed every time they called their father daddy.
Yeah.
I'm not into that. Maybe that is more of like just a Southern cultural thing. So if that's the case, I apologize. I don't really know enough about that. If it's not, however, I would consider that one of the things I didn't like about the book.
Mm-hmm.
I also, and this is mentioned like very briefly early on, and I guess it is brought up later, but when I first came across this, I was just like, head tilt, you know?
Yeah.
Again, our main character, Brooke, she's 28. Her closest sibling, Lake, is 26, I believe. So they're both adults, whatever. And they like distinctly mention, and they're virgins, because I guess you become a mermaid when you have sex. And if you become a mermaid when you have sex, then whoever you're having sex with is gonna know that you're a mermaid. And so they're a virgin at the ages of 26 and 28. Look, there's literally nothing wrong with like being a virgin at that age. I don't like, nobody gives a fuck. The whole concept of virginity is made up and stupid anyways. But it just didn't sit with me well.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can fully explain it, but it didn't sit with me well. It was uncomfy.
Yeah.
You know?
And I don't know if this book has any like high religion in it. Oh, you know, she's married now, so they need to like consummate the marriage and all this kind of stuff. That's like the vibe it was giving.
That was the vibe.
Yeah.
So it was like, oh, she must remain unsoiled by the ruin of man being with it. Like, I don't know. And
Yeah.
I'm just like, why? Like, I don't know. We didn't even really have to talk about like her previous love life or her previous sex life. I think it logically would have made sense. At some point, one of them must have had sex with another mermaid or something. But whatever.
Yeah.
It's an uncomfy part. So that's something I didn't like, was the whole fact that they were like very adamantly being like, these adult women are virginal adult women.
It definitely was not the vibe.
Definitely not the vibe. They should have been like super kinky. I don't know. Maybe not.
I mean, they could have easily explained it better if that's the route they wanted to go. They could have explained it better. Wasn't so like off-putting and like random.
Can I just say that what you just said there, that is my entire review of this book. Is that they could have explained it better.
Oh, yeah.
Because, yeah, okay, so this is like another big issue that I have with the book overall that I think you can agree with, is just, again, confusing.
Mm-hmm.
The way that it's written is kind of just, I'm not getting the information that I want to get at that moment.
Yes.
Like, you start describing, maybe the voice is a good example. You start describing like, oh, this voice that makes you want to go crazy or whatever. Okay, tell me about the voice, and then have that character maybe speak a little bit so that I can envision like how sexy that voice is when they're saying things. There's not a lot of logic to how this all goes. And also in the very beginning, the whole car moment where she like pushes him out of the way of a car, that happens so fast. I barely knew what actually happened.
Same.
We like don't even get any description of like, and there was a car. It was more just like, the prince is doing his life, and all of a sudden he feels weird and strange and goes to a hospital. And I'm like, what the fuck happened? We get like barely any on a moment that's quite crucial to the story. And yet a couple pages later, when him and Jacob show up to the Williams house, and then they spend like 5 pages going back and forth about, oh, what is this that you want me to sign? Isn't this crazy that you want me to sign this? Should I go send it to the printer upstairs? I'm gonna go walk upstairs. Get done with that. I don't care. I don't care about that part.
Yeah, that whole scene of thinking about signing this NDA, and it went on and on for like multiple chapters, and I'm like, I get that it's important, but we've already established that she isn't here for it. You're trying to set this up for the plot, but it doesn't have enough driving force for us to care about it.
Yes, thank you. If the author could have like tied it with something that was more interesting to keep us along. If there was genuinely development at that point where clearly Brooke and Cooper had like made eyes and flirted a little, then I would have been like, oh, I can see that this is like a reflection of them flirting more. But it didn't feel like that. It felt like they didn't know anything about each other. They barely even knew each other's names. And also at that point, Cooper was fully an asshole. And we also barely knew anything about Brooke other than like she's a mermaid who is struggling with that. So okay, we have these two characters that like we don't cling to, and we're spending so much time on this NDA and the contract of it all when we could just using that as a catalyst for them to develop more. But it didn't feel like that.
I think they introduced it too early, where we don't know enough about Cooper and we don't know enough about Brooke to understand why it was unraveling that way. If they would have waited a little bit longer, let us know more about Brooke's life, see why she's struggling, see more of the school, see her family, and then see more of Cooper's side, like why doesn't he want to be in the line of succession. Then we can understand more of the main driving force. There's not enough driving force for these characters.
For sure.
It just felt like they were doing it because that was the plot.
100%.
I think this book is really bad at telling instead of showing. They just tell you what's happening. Like you said about the car scene. There was no setup at all. It just told you that he was about to get hit by a car without just setting it up and showing us what was happening. That can like really drastically hurt your book. You don't have to go in like heavy detail about everything, but if you just tell us, it doesn't leave, one, anything up to imagination of us trying to figure out these characters, and two, it leaves them very blank and boring because there isn't enough backstory or anything like that that's supporting these characters.
Yeah. You know, even Brooke, like it took us so long to really have a sense of that character, and even by the end of the book, I was like, I don't know, like I couldn't really envision this character in a room existing and interacting with the world.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about Brooke a lot because I have a whole section on her. But the only reason I know what Brooke and Cooper even look like is because of the cover of the book.
Yes, exactly. And that should not be the case. That should no.
Yeah, and Cooper's not attractive. I'm sorry.
Oh, he's not. He's definitely not. If I were to recast them today, it would be, first of all, the obvious choice for Cooper is Josh Hutcherson.
No.
Like, hands down.
No.
What? You?
No.
What? What do you mean
sorry,
no?
but...
Okay, who's Cooper to you? If not, obviously Josh Hutcherson.
I just keep thinking Bradley Cooper.
Ew. Oh, yeah, but I guess. Sorry, not you. I don't know why I said that. I just think that I wouldn't cast Bradley Cooper as that role. But he would do it.
I can't see Josh do it. I'm sorry. I don't want him to do it. I don't want him associated.
That's valid.
Okay, so some of my dislikes. Okay, so I will agree that I don't like this book. I wouldn't say that I hated it, but I didn't like it. But the things that kept driving me apart was two main things. One, the lack of mermaidism in this. I don't know if that's a word,
yes.
That is literally the driving force of this book, is her being a mermaid. Why is she a mermaid? What was the point of her being a mermaid? They literally could have taken that aspect out of the story and absolutely nothing would have changed within the story.
1,000%.
If you're gonna make her a mermaid, lean into it, because that's what the readers are expecting. You've put it on the cover that she's a mermaid. So lean into her being a mermaid. Give me more history. Give me more development. Give me more powers. Give me more of a reason to read this book other than this random romance. Because a whole book shouldn't be around a love interest. You also need to develop out your characters to give her, or them, or him, or whatever it is, a personality, a reason to support this character. With her being a mermaid, it was just not there. It wasn't there enough for me to care. And then I just have so many questions left over, because obviously I'm going in with the knowledge of mermaids I already have, and some of those, like, stereotypes, I guess, she does follow, but some of them she doesn't. There was one scene in chapter 25 that really threw me off, because I don't understand how she even turns into a mermaid. She takes a bath with Cooper and she doesn't turn into a mermaid when that happens. I guess it's like at will, not like a force thing like H2O or anything.
On that topic, I just gotta say, if you're writing a fantasy story about like a fantasy race of character, mermaid is a fantasy race of character, there are rules. There are set rules that literature has defined, and if you don't like them, you at the very least have to write into your book an acknowledgement that you are changing the rules. You have to write your new rules. If we were to write a vampire novel, okay? And all of a sudden you're gonna say, like, you know, you have this character, this vampire character who's like enjoying some McDonald's with their friend. Like, no, that's gonna fucking confuse people. If you've previously established, like, well, they can eat human food, whatever, you know, like if you've like set forward, oh, the rules are a little bit different in my book, then when they eat McDonald's, I'll be like, okay, this makes sense because I know this breed of vampire that you've got. But if you just throw that kind of shit in there, and then you're like, yeah, and my vampire character was like checking himself out in the mirror and eating Italian pasta with a bunch of garlic, I'm gonna be fucking confused.
Absolutely. Like, it's cool to fight against those norms and against that previous construct of it, but you have to support it. Explain why. She just brushes over the fact that she's a mermaid. There's a tiny bit of history, like past chapter 21, when she finds out about her mother and that she might be the heir of a throne or something. I got confused at the end. We'll talk about it. But when she did the ice powers at the food trucks, I was so confused what was happening.
Yeah. I
didn't understand that it was her doing it, that she was like trying to freeze that girl out. I totally didn't pick that up at all. Just, I don't know, man. I don't know. It's just, I hated the fact that she was a mermaid. I would rather her not be a mermaid.
And I think a way that I would pull this back and summarize what I think happened in the writing process, I'll make this mistake a lot. I've made this mistake in my early screenwriting, and I'll probably continue to make this mistake at times as well, is when you have a story so set in your heart and mind, you know it backwards and forwards. Mm-hmm. So you know the rules of your mermaid, you know the lineage of it all, whatever. And so when you get to writing it, you don't necessarily think that you have to describe these things because you're so used to knowing that kind of stuff.
Right.
When you're writing a story, when you're giving someone a story, you need to spoon feed important details because the reader is not going to know otherwise. They're not going to be able to read your mind and be like, oh, I get it that she has these ice powers because she's a mermaid and that's her specific power and whatever. Mm-hmm. Going back with the mermaid and the powers of it all, that is partially like a rule of fantasy species of a mermaid. I think this author maybe had a really conclusive story in their mind, but were unable to bring it to the page.
I definitely agree with you. You gotta be open to criticism and feedback. That's why you gotta share with people and have the people answer questions like this. It's like maybe she wrote this by herself and then was like, all right, let's publish it without any feedback on it.
Exactly. Because anybody who read this would have been able to be like, oh, so I don't get how she turns into a mermaid.
Yeah.
Like, I don't get that. That's important to know.
We do get the scene with her in lake in the pool swimming, just, you know, in the middle of their school while it was open. They're not very good at staying secretive, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And there's this scene where they morph their tail together and then they start swimming around. But that was the only scene that they really even gave a snippet of explaining what happens. Mm-hmm. And I'm still confused.
Yeah, completely agree.
My last dislike was just the men in this book.
Yeah, but I mean, like, isn't that like a life thing that's not like necessarily tied to just this book? But yeah.
Yeah. The men in this book is just yikes. Like, River's protectiveness and Cooper's possessiveness. River and Cooper were like my big ones. They're just, it's not great. I don't love it. Cooper saw her as a prize to be won, while River saw her as a child, even though pretty sure he was only like a year older than her, maybe 2. But I just didn't love the men in this book.
And that's another huge fucking thing, because again, Cooper is one of your main characters. You open with Cooper.
Cooper is just straight up cringe all around, to be honest.
He is. He's just a jerk, basic asshole, not an interesting person at all. And I don't like either of them, and they're both annoying. I think like River could have been more important to the story too. And just wasn't.
Well, we'll get to it in the what happens next, but the second book is actually about River.
Oh, okay.
So there's something specifically I want to talk about that it's just a specific scene that really bothered me. Mm-hmm. And I don't know why. After they get back from the grocery store, the beginning of the story, grocery store, Brooke says something along the lines of, putting away groceries can wait a little bit longer. The line right before that, they said that they've been home for 2 hours.
That makes so much
they've been home
sense.
for So they've been home for 2 hours, and then she's like, I think Cooper comes over, and she's like, actually, I'll wait a little bit, just a little bit longer to put the groceries away. What? You don't got milk? You don't got things that need to go in the fridge?
There's no ice cream
Yeah,
in there? It's just like fucking melting?
You don't got no Ben and Jerry's?
Dude, I get worried if it's like a long drive from the grocery store to my house.
Right, and she's just got it all on the counter, letting it melt.
That's wild. That's some like early 2020 kind of shit where you just left your groceries out to melt the germs away.
I don't know. And it's very random, but I just can't stop thinking about that line.
Another way that I would summarize this whole thing is that this book felt like really bad Harry Meghan fan fiction.
Who?
Oh my gosh, Jen. Are you serious?
I don't know who they are.
Harry. Not Harry Styles, the other Harry, the other important Harry.
Harry the Prince?
Yeah.
Meg is a mermaid?
That is honestly actually very funny to me. Anyways.
So, who in this book would you say is your favorite character?
Okay, so this is going to be a complete 180 from what I just said like 30 seconds ago, but it's River.
Oh my gosh.
Because while I think that he's annoying and just needs to stop, I'm also like, there's a potential in that. There's like a younger brother kind of potential in that. But also, how old is he again? Because that's another thing. I don't know how old he is. In my mind, when I first read this, when I was getting into the beginning of it, I was like, oh, he's definitely younger than them. He's probably like 15, 16 or whatever, and being like the annoying younger brother. But I don't know how old he is.
So Brooke is 28, and then I think the order of siblings is Bay's the oldest, and it's River, and then it's Brooke, and then it's Lake is the youngest.
I'm sorry, so River is older than Brooke?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's older. I don't know by how. He's got to be at least a year older than her. I don't think it ever says how old he is.
I take it back. He's not my favorite character. I 180 from the 180. I've 360.
360 right back.
My favorite character is the dog.
What's his name?
Ralph?
All right, sure. Okay, when they introduced the dog, I was like, is this just a retelling of The Little Mermaid? Okay, so we have like Prince Eric, and then we have his dog, and then we have like Ariel, the mermaid. It felt like a retelling of that until we get like later on.
Yeah, but in a bad way, yeah.
Honestly, it should have just been a retelling of The Little Mermaid.
I think they could have gone off. They could have gone off on being like, let's do an interesting retelling of The Little Mermaid, also in a way that gets like very steamy down the line. Like that could have been good, but I don't think it was good.
Yeah. I went with Drew. He had me at the eyelash extensions.
The eyelash.
That was how he was
Stunning.
introduced, was the fact that he had eyelash extensions. But he was the only, at least that I could tell, the only heavily stereotyped LGBT character in the book.
Yeah, it's giving that character in live action Cruella movie. He works at the thrift store. As far as I know, they're never like openly spoken to like, oh, they're definitely gay or whatever, but it's heavily implied. And so therefore also stereotyped because of that. It is an interesting character, and that actor did an incredible job to where I would love like a little spin-off series. It's giving that same kind of energy, right? Where it's like, this character must be gay because they are just like, oh my goodness, darling, fashion. Oh my goodness, you know?
The voice actor's tone and like enunciation changed in the book. It was giving very flamboyant. And I was like, okay, I don't think it's necessary, but sure. But I liked him in the sense that he was like generally a good person for Brooke. It made her feel back at home because a big thing with her was like she was so kind to the staff, where Jacob and Cooper didn't really care about the staff because they were just there to make sure he made it home. Well, she appreciated their help, had conversations with her. I don't think he was in it enough, but a lot of the side characters are just not in it enough.
Yeah.
Besides Cooper and Brooke, Jacob's the only other character that's in it more often. Everyone else is very much side character, and they have no development in them. But I don't like Cooper, and I don't like Brooke, so I definitely didn't want to pick them.
Yeah. Which, again, that's kind of the hallmark of you didn't do well in the execution, is if both of your main characters nobody really likes.
Yeah.
And that's another thing I struggle with too in my screenwriting. I struggle with making the side characters far more interesting, and you got to take a step back and be like, wow, if this side character is far more interesting, maybe the story should be about them.
Absolutely. Yeah. Every podcast, I'm like, oh, I would love a book about this side character, or I would love a miniseries about this side character. I cannot say the same for this book. I don't care about any of the characters.
Yeah.
So just want to take a second here to shout out the Patreon subscribers.
Nick W.
Oh my god.
Ashley A. Bree P. Hey, I know someone who has that name. Patrick C. Shelby K. Jack J. That's a pretty solid name too. Tim M. Ooh, a good letter. Emily P. Anastasia, or perhaps Anastasia, but probably Anastasia H. Jeneth P. And last but not least, Lulu.
Thank you guys so much for subscribing to the podcast. It means the world to me. I enjoy doing this, and I'm glad that, a couple people are listening to it. It's pretty cool. If you guys want to be part of the Patreon, shout out, head over to Patreon, and just, go ahead, subscribe today.
Subscribe, you guys. What are you doing? What are you doing right now? What are your thumbs doing right now is a better question, because I think they could be put to pretty damn good use. What am I doing? I'm doing an advertisement for the Bookstop podcast. Join the Patreon.
So, you want to play mermaids?
I want to play a mermaid so bad. Yes.
Oh my gosh. If you were a mermaid, what would your powers be?
Oh my god, okay. I would have the power of seduction. So I would basically be a siren, I think. But it would be very much like I would pick and choose when I wanted to seduce. And I think that my power would also be it wouldn't just be a sexual seduction. I think there would be different levels to influence, really, is what it is. I would be an influencer, Jen. I'd be an influencer mermaid.
Slay. I'll get you a Patreon.
Amazing. Hashtag sponsor.
I love it.
Jen, what if you were a mermaid?
I want the power to cause gigantic storms.
Ooh. Do you think you would use that power knowing that climate change is kind of already doing that for you?
I'll help.
You're I don't think enough people are suffering.
No, but to be able to, I guess, control the weather, so make it rain.
Oh, so you would be climate change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just call me climate change.
No, that'd be pretty sick. I think weather powers are, severely underrated.
True. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is the ending of the book, specifically starting with chapter 21. I think chapter 21 is where I just fell off. It's where she finds out about her mother, that she was royalty, I guess, and then we find out about Cooper's family. Chapter 21, I just put, huh? ? I felt like it was a completely different book. Brooke's attitude just felt very out of character for her. She just became very stern and very, I guess, aggressive. And don't get me wrong, I love a strong female main character. I love it so much. But this one just felt very weird. It was just so sudden. There was no gradual advancement to her because she starts out so timid in the beginning of the story. She doesn't share her thoughts ever. She keeps it all bottled inside. She doesn't talk out of turn, anything like that. She's very young. She acts like she's 13, 14 instead of the 28 she is because she's very timid. And then at the end of the book, she's saying all this stuff to people and being just very aggressive. And it was just that flip where it's just instant, like a flick of a switch. She's just different.
Yeah, there was definitely the character change was just and now there's character change. And we're okay.
I just think it was not supported enough to be able to just instantly switch your character like that.
Yeah, that's not how real people are. Nobody switches their mind so quickly.
Yeah.
It will be gradual. Maybe she finds out she's royal, cool, and she has that beginning inclination, but then you gotta develop it. It can't just all happen at once. That's not how people work. And that's not, to the best of my knowledge, how mermaids work.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I was just so thrown off. She jumped off the boat of Cooper bringing her back to his family in his saucer land. And she comes down in the ocean, finds out that a bunch of mermaids live there. They take her to a royal head, and he tells her all this stuff. I still don't understand what any of that was. I think it's interesting because in the second book, it's about River's point of view, so we don't even really know what's going to happen with that. Does he end up being the king of the ocean? I don't know, man. I don't know.
That would be kind of funny. River, king of the ocean.
I think I'm just still confused about a lot of things, especially like explaining the dynasty of Saucerland. Cooper had said that one of the rules is rule if the lineage book says so, or you go to jail for treason.
Well, in that case, you could just write your name in there if those are the rules.
Right. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. None of it made sense. The ending, I was so confused by. That Nick guy showed up, and I was like, I don't know who you are. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
It just felt like, I wouldn't say rushed. It just felt incompleted.
I have no thoughts. I completely agree. You said it perfectly.
Yeah, I don't know. I did not enjoy the end of the book. It was kind of cringe.
Yeah, I kind of just flew through it, I feel like, at that point. At that point, I just, like, my brain was less caring about what was going on and more like, I need to finish this book to finish this book.
Yeah, same. Literally same, yeah.
Zoned out.
I just want to be done with this book. I just don't care anymore. I do say the end of the book was good in the sense that I got to meet Mia, and I did like Mia, his sister.
One of the only, like, slightly redeeming characters of the book.
Yeah. Who would you say in this one is your favorite relationship?
Ooh, definitely no one. 1000% no one. I very much specifically wrote in my notes, because I knew you were going to ask me this question. I very specifically wrote in caps lock, favorite relationship, ? No one. I really don't know. I guess I would maybe say Brooke and Lake. Like, they're sisters, but, like, there's not enough interesting or compelling.
Yeah. I definitely agree. My favorite relationship is when the river meets the sea.
Wow. 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 Go on, Jen. And so why is that your favorite relationship in this book? Yeah. Cite your sources.
You know, I'll pull up a map. I will show you a few different rivers that meet the sea.
Let me ask you a question that has absolutely nothing to do with anything we're talking about right now. Let me ask you a quick question. Jen, you're talking about where the river meets the sea. Where does today meet yesterday? That's your riddle for the day. Where does today meet yesterday?
I would say at 12 a.m. when it goes
That's what you would say. And that's what I think anybody would logically say. They would say at midnight, right? That makes the most sense. No, the correct answer, Jen, is in a museum. Anyways, that has nothing to do with anything, but I'm hoping that
the silence is deafening.
there will be someday one person who listens to this and knows the reference. And until then, everybody else is gonna have no fucking clue what I'm talking about. And that's okay. That's totally okay.
Okay, my favorite relationship though for Rizzles, I did like Mia and Cooper together. I think they were very sassy to each other. I just don't think there was enough in there to support me saying that they were my favorite. I do not have a favorite either.
Yeah. There was like a kindling of an interesting dynamic that just like wasn't really explored.
Exactly. They could have introduced Mia way earlier and maybe have her be the only one that he really has a connection with in his family.
Agreed.
You want to just play a game?
Yeah, let's play a game. Let's play a game that makes sense for what we're talking about.
If you guys know Kim, she's been on many, many times, and she has her own little podcast where she talks about movies. It's called Movie Theater Butter. She talks about movies. We've done a few podcasts on there.
Yeah.
So I have a bunch of movies here. They're all aquatic theme, but some of them have mermaids in them and some of them do not. But I will include sirens as mermaids. Are you ready?
I am ready.
All right. Aquamarine.
Mermaid.
Yes.
Whew, got that one right.
Aquaman.
Ooh. Yeah, mermaid, yeah.
Yep. Teen beach movie.
Ooh. Gosh, it's been a hot minute. I think no mermaid. I think no.
No mermaid. I think Ross Lynch could have been a mermaid, though.
Oh my god, we gotta at some point talk about the Ross Lynch of it all. But anyways, yes.
On Stranger Tides.
Mermaid.
Yeah. Free Willy.
Free Willy. Ooh, I've never seen it, but I'm gonna say no mermaid.
You've never seen Free Willy?
Yeah,
I used to
right?
love that movie so much.
Yeah.
The Meg.
Oh, also haven't seen it. I'm gonna say confidently no mermaid.
No mermaid. Yep. Nymph.
Ooh, mermaid?
Yep.
Nice.
The Goblet of Fire.
The Goblet of Fire. Mermaid.
Yep. Life of Pi.
Life of Pi. Also never seen it. There's no way there's a mermaid in there.
No.
No mermaid. No
mermaid.
Okay, good.
Castaway.
Oh my god, are you kidding me? Tom Hanks? I have a poster of that. Like an original poster. I love that movie. No mermaid. No mermaid.
The Lighthouse.
The Lighthouse. Mermaid.
Yeah.
I love this game. This is a fun game.
Thanks.
Because I can actually get this one right.
Blackfish.
Blackfish. No mermaid.
No mermaid. And the last one, Miranda.
Miranda. Oh, I don't even know what that is. My first thought is it's a movie about the origin of the Miranda rights, starring Miranda Cosgrove. I don't know anything about this movie. I'm gonna say no mermaid.
No, there is a mermaid.
There is a mermaid. Okay.
Yay! I think you only got one wrong. I think this is the best
Hell
one
yeah.
you've done for the games.
Hell yeah. We gotta write that. That's a record. That's my new record now.
Heck yeah. Alright, what are some things, in your own personal opinion, that you would have done differently, would have changed within this book?
I would definitely explore far more Brooke's challenge with her identity. I think that could be a very strong and powerful part of the book, and something to make her character significantly more compelling. So I would explore more, like really get to the origin of she is timid because she's afraid of this, and maybe highlight some certain experiences in her past a bit more of things that kind of went wrong instead of just vaguely being like, oh, it's been a rough road. So that's one big thing that I would change, is just really delving into that in like a very deep way.
I agree with that, yes. Like flashbacks or something would be good.
Yeah, and even just like little moments here and there where she's having a good time and things are good and she's feeling fine, and then all of a sudden something small happens that like brings her back into it. Another missed opportunity that I think you brought up would be to explore that there's more to Cooper, and I think it would be great if Cooper was gay or bi or just kind of questioning his sexuality in general, whatever that may be. I think that would be interesting and far more compelling as well, because it would also mirror Brooke's anxiety and insecurities around her identity in that kind of a way that they could share a bit more.
Yeah, I think it definitely would have made him more developed out. But also, I can't see a book like this to have that much depth in it, you know?
Right.
My main one is obviously more focus on the mermaids. It's such a important part, because it just felt like a back road idea, I guess. It wasn't that important. Lean into more of Brooke wanting a relationship, because it didn't feel like she really wanted to be in a relationship. I still don't understand why she even went, because there wasn't enough driving force of her caring about the school. Like, she obviously cared about it, but the money of it all, it didn't mention it once or twice and then never thought of it again. And then when she finally was like, okay, yeah, I'll be with you, Cooper, it just felt so sudden.
Yeah. Honestly, she should have just not. She should have just been like, actually, he sucks. He's not cool. He's a jerk. They're all jerks.
And my last one is when Cooper finds out about Brooke being a mermaid because he watches the security film of her coming back out of the ocean and Jacob sees her being a mermaid. I really wish we would have got the scene of Cooper watching the video and him coming to terms that she's a mermaid, because it just skips the chapter and he's like, oh, you're a mermaid, and is totally fine with it.
Yeah, like that's supposedly a central part of the whole thing. Again, just went forward and talked about a bunch of nothingness instead.
Exactly. Like, it made no sense. I was like, this woman is a magical creature, and you're just completely fine with that. You don't ask any questions. You're just like, oh, hey, you're a mermaid. Cool, my wife's a mermaid. And then just moved on. We didn't even really talk to the fact that they just got married.
Yeah.
Like, they knew each other for a day, and they got married.
Yeah, that's not 28-year-old behavior, if I may say so.
That's a 29-year-old.
Yeah, this is some 29-year-old bullshit.
Oh, God. I don't know. I just kind of blocked that out of my head for a sec. I completely forgot that they got married, and then they kept calling each other husband and wife.
Yeah.
In their head. They're like, oh, that's my husband.
That's my hubby. What's his middle name? I don't know. I met him yesterday.
Oh, God. So, what are some predictions that you have? So, again, this is, I think it's just a duology. I think there's only 2 books in the series. The second book being Water Under the Bridge. What do you think is going to happen in the next book?
Cooper and River are gonna go back to their original characterizations. Like, at the very end, you know, when you're wrapping up a book, it's like, they're a little bit better now. I think they're gonna be bad again. Kind of in the same way that, like, obviously at the end of the first High School Musical, Sharpay like learns her. This is a common knowledge thing. At the end of the first, what? Don't.
Wrong. You're not wrong.
Don't laugh at me for critically thinking about High School Musical.
No, you're not wrong. Please continue. Sorry.
At the end of the first High School Musical movie, Sharpay the villain throughout the first film has shown a bit of character development. She kind of has this nice moment with our main characters and is like, hey, you know what? Water under the bridge. Something along those lines, right? Then by the beginning of the second film, all of a sudden, Sharpay's still just a bitch with no character development.
Right.
So I think this series is going to go similarly in the sense that slight movements of characters in a positive direction are going to kind of just go back. Mm-hmm. And Cooper's gonna be an asshole again. River's gonna just be... Well, although I guess River's the main character, so maybe there's some development there. But at the very least, he's gonna be, like, probably a classic fantasy male character in the sense of, like, oh, my life sucks.
Right.
Meh. So that's one prediction that I have. Another prediction that I have is that I'm not gonna read the second book.
Same. Me neither. I agree with that, though. I would love to learn why River is so, like, protective and, like, angry all the time, but I'm sure we'll not get that.
I think toxic masculinity.
Oh, that is a driving force, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Brooke and Cooper might have some kids. I don't know.
Yeah, what would they call them?
Oh, God. Okay, so we got Brooke and
Shore.
Cooper. Shore. That's a good one.
Beach.
No. Water Droplet.
Water Droplet. Oh, that's such like a celebrity baby name.
White Wave.
Dolphin.
Hurricane.
Meniscus.
Sea Floor.
Imagine having to literally write that and fill out the bubbles for that in every standardized test you ever take ever.
Oh my god.
Sea Floor.
Sea Floor. Would it be hyphenated or like one full name?
I think it would be one full name, which would be even worse, because then people would be like, what's up, Seaf?
Oh god. Well, unfortunately, as time has had it, we unfortunately have to leave. I'm so sorry. But before we go, we're going to do one last thing. We're going to do a little rating scale, and we're going to do a little bit different. Different this time. We're going to make up our own thing. So I would give Wish Out of Water by Holly Trent 4 children named after a body of water just because they are merfolk out of 12.
Oh my goodness. Snaps for that. That was great.
Thank you. And 4 is a bit high, but I honestly wanted to get the 4 kids in there, but you know, it wasn't the vibe. I think it had potential, okay? I think it could have been a good piece of work, could have been better, but the delivery of it was just not good. She felt like she was stuck in the middle. She should have either went like a full-fledged book, or she should have went super raunchy. Those dollar store bin books, you know?
Yes.
Like, and those are fine. Either one are fine. As long as you get a creative outlet out there, it doesn't matter how good the book is, just get it out there.
Yeah.
But when you're stuck in the middle, it leaves the readers kind of like, okay, should I go one way with the thoughts or should I go another way? It's hard to pinpoint exactly what you want your readers to digest from the book.
Absolutely. Well said.
Thank you. So what would you rate this lovely book?
I would rate this book 1 scale out of 17 scales. Why? I don't know.
How many scales does a mermaid have on her tail?
That's what I was thinking, right? I was like, I wanted to give it a 1 to like really represent how... You know what? Hold on. Let me
Google this for you so you can be accurate with your description.
Yeah.
You know, for some reason, when I look it up, it does not give me an answer.
Wow, you're telling me there's not good science and quantitative science on the number of scales on a mermaid?
It has to be in the thousands.
For sure.
At least.
For sure. But at least 12. At least 17.
Oh, you got at least 17, yeah.
So I guess I'll give it 23 out of 100 scales because I think there was a little something there that really was not fleshed out, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, I agree. Well, thank you so much for coming on to the Book Stop.
Literally any time. Thank you for having me.
Of course, we always have a great time. I feel like every episode we do is just always a banger. Mm-hmm. You gotta check out the Percy Jackson one if you haven't. Probably one of my, I don't pick favorites, but probably one of my most listened to Book Stop episode because it's just so funny.
And there is an episode for the Movie Theater Butter that you and I recorded about Percy Jackson. Where is it? I don't know.
Oh my goodness. We're gonna find it and we're gonna get it out to you guys. Don't you worry.
Yeah, the lost episode.
Ooh, spooky, mysterious. But yeah, thank you so much. I don't believe we have an episode scheduled for this year, but you will absolutely be back next year with another little book. Thank you again, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you for turning the pages with us today. If you've enjoyed this episode, show your support by leaving a review, sharing the episode, and following the podcast on Instagram at The Book Stop Podcast. Join us on Patreon for early access to episodes and other additional content. Thank you for listening, and I'm looking forward to the next one. Hope you are too.